you, Chair, and thank you to all those who have come to speak today. I'll answer and address a lot of the points that have been raised today. It clearly demonstrates the value of the Carlton Granville site, and it's a completely valued and brilliant asset for the borough and for South Kilburn. We recognise the need to maintain that community space. Since I took on the Cabinet role 2.5 years ago, the approach to the potential redevelopment of the Carlton Granville has been very different, and I thank my predecessor for starting up the stakeholders group who started this ball rolling. The stakeholders group set up brings together community organisations, relevant council departments and the GLA officers to be part of the body that makes and works on proposals of the design and future of the Carlton Granville site. The process has been led by the community organisation, and in my view, in many ways the council has been a facilitator on that body and not a decision maker. The group has created the terms of reference for that stakeholders group, the design brief, we're on the appointment panel for the architect. Each stakeholder has been involved in one-to-one meetings with the architect. In fact, council officers have not had one-to-one meetings about the design approach. It's all been led by community organisations. The only ask we had as a council was to involve in looking at examining how housing could potentially be explored. And this is a wider strategic goal of the council. We have limited land, we have a huge housing need across the borough, 2,000 families in temporary accommodation, huge waiting list. So we need to be sure that we're maximising council housing or social housing wherever we can. And I can give the reassurance that the 23 housing units that are proposed in this scheme will be council housing. Consultation events have been held, and on the back of that, the feedback that we've had on that consultation, the designs have been changed to lower the amount of housing on the site. There's also been concerns about community space that have been raised today. The new proposals includes 2 new halls, including increasing open space, including a roof garden which will be accessed by the community. And I think the whole scheme as well looks at how we compromise and how different groups can work together. In my view, all needs have been catered for. The new scheme will deliver community spaces, enterprise spaces, not commercial, enterprise spaces, a nursery, a children's or potentially family hub, community gardens, as well as 23 council housing units. I should also point out that I think someone mentioned earlier about points of advice and kind of where to go, where residents need to go. Just up the road in a William Dunbar house, a Kilburn hub is being established and currently being the office space down there is being refurbed to offer the Chair, and thank you to all those who have come to speak today. I'll answer and address a lot of the points that have been raised today. It clearly demonstrates the value of the Carlton Granville site, and it's a completely valued and brilliant asset for the borough and for South Kilburn. We recognise the need to maintain that community space. Since I took on the Cabinet role 2.5 years ago, the approach to the potential redevelopment of the Carlton Granville has been very different, and I thank my predecessor for starting up the stakeholders group who started this ball rolling. The stakeholders group set up brings together community organisations, relevant council departments and the GLA officers to be part of the body that makes and works on proposals of the design and future of the Carlton Granville site. The process has been led by the community organisation, and in my view, in many ways the council has been a facilitator on that body and not a decision maker. The group has created the terms of reference for that stakeholders group, the design brief, we're on the appointment panel for the architect. Each stakeholder has been involved in one-to-one meetings with the architect. In fact, council officers have not had one-to-one meetings about the design approach. It's all been led by community organisations. The only ask we had as a council was to involve in looking at examining how housing could potentially be explored. And this is a wider strategic goal of the council. We have limited land, we have a huge housing need across the borough, 2,000 families in temporary accommodation, huge waiting list. So we need to be sure that we're maximising council housing or social housing wherever we can. And I can give the reassurance that the 23 housing units that are proposed in this scheme will be council housing. Consultation events have been held, and on the back of that, the feedback that we've had on that consultation, the designs have been changed to lower the amount of housing on the site. There's also been concerns about community space that have been raised today. The new proposals includes 2 new halls, including increasing open space, including a roof garden which will be accessed by the community. And I think the whole scheme as well looks at how we compromise and how different groups can work together. In my view, all needs have been catered for. The new scheme will deliver community spaces, enterprise spaces, not commercial, enterprise spaces, a nursery, a children's or potentially family hub, community gardens, as well as 23 council housing units. I should also point out, I think someone mentioned earlier about points of advice and kind of where to go, where residents need to go. Just up the road in the William Dunbar House, a Kilburn hub is being established and currently being the office space out there is being refurbed to offer to deliver 1,000 council housing units, social housing units, by ourselves as a council, which Sadiq Khan has already acknowledged by giving us £65 million to do so. So I don't think that it's fair to say that it's social housing that's been pressured on this one site. It's 23 units. But we have to look at all units. My ward alone is looking at some units on council land of 8 units, 10 units. We're looking at every small site to deliver 1,000 units to fulfil our manifesto commitments. And I would stand by this is a scheme that actually we as a council should be proud of. It's delivering community facilities, enterprise facilities, educational facilities, outdoor space, as well as council housing. So I personally, I'm not seeing why we wait. I think issues around governance we can work on over the next 2 years as the bill is progressing, and that is my ask. And on a final note, I think 5 councils were reported to have called this in, yet only 2 councils are sitting here talking to it. And I think in terms of democratic accountability, I think it's important that we make sure that if councils are putting the name to a calling, which is their democratic right and their responsibility, that we have assurances that all 5 are going to be here. On a final note, I think officers have worked really hard in the last 2 years to deliver a fantastic scheme with community organisations, and I hope that we continue in that collaborative way. If there are things that need to be addressed and ironed out, I'm happy to hear them.
I think we're going to have to sort of wrap up and come to a conclusion now. So I think the best way just to sort of take views from members of the committee, first of all about what you think we should do, and then we'll proceed, hopefully we'll build consensus and proceed there. So would anyone like to go first and let me know what they think? Sure, yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, sure.
And particularly because there are so many people attending, can we get some clarification on the power that we really thank Councillor Tatler for her verbal assurances in this meeting, but for the people who are watching who may not be particularly familiar with council procedure, what weight do those verbal assurances carry, and what is the recourse of this committee, backbench councillors and the local community if it's felt that the verbal assurances which have been given in place of changing the detail of the decision we feel are not met?
Well, I'll maybe go for some full legal advice from the officers in a second. But I mean, I think I did say, float the idea earlier that one potential conclusion, we could make is that, we feel it should go ahead as long as all 23 are social housing. If they're not, we think it should come back. We have mechanisms to do that. So we can obviously just completely throw out a report, we can completely endorse it, or we can go somewhere in the middle to say, we would like to proceed but only on these bases. I think that's a fair summary, but I don't know, Carolyn would want to.
That's absolutely right. I mean, the ultimate decision maker remains Cabinet. So whatever you do, it will go back to Cabinet, and the ultimate decision maker is not Councillor Tatler, but Cabinet.
Does that clarify things for you? Do you have one very final thing to say before we decide those? Okay, all right, thank you. So as I said, I think we need to obviously decide what we want to do as a committee. I don't know, it might be easy to come down the line. Do you mind going first, Councillor Sherry, or would you just might be easy to
I don't want to sound like a broken record, Chair. I think there are enough concerns here tonight, both in terms of number and the credibility of the stakeholders that have come here this evening, with a range of concerns, to say that, and given that there isn't a neck-break speed and urgency for this paper to be passed, it doesn't mean we throw it out completely. We're just asking Cabinet to go back, reconsider, reconvene with some of the stakeholders here, and come back with something that addresses these concerns. I think that, for me, that would be the preference.
I'm a bit concerned about stuff just going backwards and forwards to Cabinet. I'm not minded to agree the proposal of adopting option 4, I think there have been a number of issues which we've talked about tonight which do require consideration. I do want to hear more about the housing. And I'm just trying to work out from a scrutiny point of view about what we agree, because normally we just, please clarify, yeah? Normally I'm thinking as I sit, as so to put it, yeah? Normally we would just sign off what Cabinet has done or refer back and expect there to be another whole cycle of work, yeah? I'm not looking for a whole cycle of work, but I do want some assurance that it's going to be reported to us if there's any deviation from what we have heard tonight, yeah? And I also would like us, perhaps, I can't predict the programme, but for us to receive a report to Scrutiny in, say, 3 months' time with an update about the housing arrangements and more details about community arrangements to which the community here are able to come here and be represented. And that would also include, I think, the point made about consultation and South Carlton Community Trust.
I think, can I just clarify on one point on that? I think obviously there was a call in regarding South Carlton in 2016 as well. And one of the recommendations the committee made at the time was about a more formal process to consult ward councillors on subjects such as this. So if you look at the latest Cabinet report, which no one knew when the rota was being called in, there is Section 9 consultation with all members. So that clearly shows that things we have said in these previous meetings and put recommendations, have followed through and done that. So there's no reason we can't make recommendations along those lines again and expect it to be fulfilled.
And build into our work plan rather than going backwards and forwards.
Okay, Councillor Smith?
Given the discussions we've had, I would be uncomfortable with the last paragraph of option 3, which is it should be recognised that viability will have to be worked through and some private housing may be required. However, the preference is for affordable units. So what is affordable units? We were talking about council housing. Secondly is we have had some degree of reassurance that it would be council housing, and there was no talk about private housing. So I have a difficulty with the last paragraph of option 3. And I would like to refer that back to the Cabinet for us to...
Yes, I think if this goes to Cabinet, 4 points have to be very explicitly addressed. Those 23 social units need to be signed off. There needs to be legitimate safeguards against noise. There need to be clear guarantees of the minimal social purpose in the enterprise part of the hub. And I think most importantly, the oversight seeing body needs to be democratically accountable.
Thank you.
I think given the representations we've heard here today, the amount of residents who have attended today, and the fact that I think, in my personal opinion, I don't think there's any harm in taking more time to consider this. So I think it should be referred back to Cabinet.
We've heard obviously a lot tonight, but I'm fairly confident of the assurances supplied by the lead member and the concerns that were raised about the square meterage and the affordable social housing. So I'm actually fine with the original decision by Cabinet.
Thank you. Councillor Sangre?
I take on board the concerns that are raised by the residents, but the assurances that's been given by the lead member, and also looking at the scheme itself, that we don't like changes, but this is an improvement. It provides better community facilities. It provides social housing. It also inbuilt antisocial and public order issues are addressed. Taking all that into account, and also particularly the need for housing, I will be going for recommendations in our agenda papers 211, and that is to make no changes and to the scheme as it is. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope we would come to consensus there, but there does seem to be a clear divide on that, so I think we will probably have to sort of vote exactly what we want to do. So it seems to me 2 options. I think, the first one is make no changes, just let the council proceed with it. From what I've heard from other people, correct me if I'm wrong, the second option would be that to send it back to Cabinet with some specifics on it, that it should only go ahead if viability is passed in all 23 units of social housing. But it should only go ahead if the concerns around noise are fully addressed. The point about the minimal social purpose, and also I accept what we heard from the Chief Executive earlier, that the council can't dictate exactly to a charity how it runs itself, but I do think pressure. So we could recommend that the council put pressure on the trust to embody a more democratic form. So
the suggestion was not actually around that whilst we welcome the idea of the council continuing to try and promote and influence increasing democratic representation within charities or organisations that we partner with, the request was not actually about increasing democracy in one particular organisation, in this case the South Gibbon Trust. What the request was is that going forward, the community feels that the community provision on the site could be, and what Councillor Tatler has said has been explored for the last 2 meetings of the stakeholder group, is that that could be better provided by a management group which was broader in its representation and was not just one organisation, but was, for example, consisted of the current members of the stakeholder group, and as Leslie from the nursery school indicated, from what has been said for a long time, it has to yet come into place and expand its stakeholder group, and that's
thank you for that clarification. I think that is kind of the line I was going to go down, but you've explained it much better. Yeah, and that broader management stakeholder group is involved in future planning in the area. So I think,
and housing rate and bedroom ratios as regards to your first point concerning 23.
So can you give me 4 more words on that?
Can you read out your...
well, I had that the scheme should only go ahead if it passes viability and it is confirmed that all 23 units will be social. You could maybe also add something about your bedrooms into that.
Yeah, and bedroom and with the predominance, difficult to dictate. It's about...
But all efforts are made to ensure that there is an appropriate...
Pardon? Yes.
All efforts are made to ensure predominance of family homes. I think that's fine,
Could we also vote on an open-air prison as well? Because that's what's going to happen. Knife crime and all these things.
I don't think that's fair to say. Anyway,
it's out of order.
Yeah.
I get that that's your set of recommendations to go back to Cabinet, and I know Councillor said he'd like a report back in 3 months.
Yeah.
I do think there is there is a need really for us to get this done sooner than 3 months, because we are reliant on GLA funding for this scheme, and there would be, a possibility of losing that. So could I suggest that any report back from Cabinet comes to you much quicker?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't asking...
Much quicker than 3 months.
Sorry, Chair, I was not assuming this would be delayed for 3 months.
Okay,
what I was asking for was a report in 3 months, so we don't lose the initiative, given we've heard that there is a timeline which has got an opportunity for subsequent engagement and involvement, So we can be, we can almost be acting second guessing. So.
I think the process would be that we would send the report back to Cabinet with those recommendations in it, and then ask you to sort of rewrite it before passing it again. Whatever next Cabinet. So that's not a 3-month process. So that's
exactly.
But we will review it as we go along. That's where we're getting to.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems to me that the options we've come to, as a group this week, basically either don't make any changes at all, as some colleagues have expressed, or clear. So basically 2 options is make no changes, or send it back to Cabinet on the basis that the scheme only goes ahead if it passes viability and all 23 units are social homes. That full efforts are made to ensure that the 23 units are suitable for families with enough bedrooms. Efforts are made to resolve the noise problem. That will mean that events can continue in the evening. That the enterprise space has a minimum of social value, and that a broader management group encompassing all the people, different groups who have an interest in the building, is brought together to oversee the future development of the site. So that is the recommendation. Can you, so I'm just going to ask people to, if they agree with that, and if they don't, basically. So, just Councillor Shari?
Agree, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Nervin?
Agree.
Councillor Greer? Councillor Gifford?
I agree with it, but I would have preferred the second option.
We can have the second option. I agree with the first option, just to be clear. So I think that's definitely passed. So that's the action we'll take from the meeting. Is that clear enough for the takers?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so we'll obviously that will come back to you in cabinet with those, and we'll hope to see a revised plan taken into
I just
account.
want to thank everyone for coming in. Obviously, it demonstrates the importance of part of Granville site and then actually making sure we get this right. So having taken the screening recommendations and taken them there.
Well, we thank
Everyone who came, and thank officers for considerable work around consultation.
Huh? Literally, I've been charging it periodically so it doesn't die, so I'm 2% doing it. Hello, how you doing?